Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's going to be a short video and it's going to be a book review of Rabbits for Food by Benodet. I got this probably when it was published, 2019. What relation is he to me? What relation is a sister's boyfriend? Partner? Uncle? I don't know. Step brother? Oh, I don't know. Anyway, my sister's partner. And he got it for me. Oh yeah, take that out. He got it for me when I was just a side note. I found like a film camera, you know, one of those disposable point and shoots under my table the other day. And I was like, ooh, what's on this? I haven't, you know, I can't remember what's on it. So I took it into Boots and they said it takes 3 to 4 weeks to get it processed. And I was like, oh, that's quite a long time. So we'll see what it's going to come back with. So it'd be exciting. It's always quite exciting when you don't know what's going to come out. But yeah, 3 to 4 weeks. Apparently, you used to be able to get them like when you went they printed out. No longer. There is no longer the services to do that. Anyway, complete side note. Back to the matter at hand. So I got this in 2019. This is the paperback version. I did get the hardback version. Don't know why that's relevant. But it's a really good book. I've not done a book review before, so this is the first time. I don't quite know how you're supposed to do it, so we'll just go along with it. First of all, I'm going to give an overview, and this does contain spoilers. I don't know if it's like a well-read book, because I haven't heard anybody else talking about it, so if you want to read it, I would suggest coming back to this once you've read it, and if you've not read it and you don't want to read it, go ahead and listen to this, because you're not going to read it, and maybe you just want to know a précis. Sorry, I've got the squeaky chair again. So we follow Bunny on a trip with her to her descent into a breakdown, and the book starts with a celebration of a New Year's Eve in 2008 and a meal out she attends with her husband Albie and their friends. And alongside this event, we learn about Bunny's behaviour leading up to it, and how she has been slipping down a dark rabbit hole, not eating, not sleeping properly, not showering, not seeing friends, not leaving the house. And she sees herself as a failed writer. She's aborted 2 novels, so begins to shred a lot of the manuscripts and receipts and, you know, press shots and everything. She starts to shred them, and yeah, she definitely is going on a downward spiral. So she has her husband Albie, who's there with her and tries to encourage her to, you know, drink and eat and all that jazz. And she also has sort of a lifeline with her kitten Jeffrey, but she very much is mourning the loss of her old cat Angela. And I think that's contributing to her down descent. And I think she loves Jeffrey. I think that's the name. Is it Jeffrey or Joffrey? It's not Joffrey, that's from Game of Thrones. Yeah, she sort of realises that Jeffrey isn't Angela, and Angela was like her child. And she sort of feels maybe like Jeffrey is a bit of a replacement and isn't sort of the same. So there's this New Year's Eve dinner party that they've been invited to go to, her and Albie, and Albie does his best to try and dissuade her from going because he thinks this isn't going to be a good idea. She's not doing well. She's not seen anybody for a long time. She's not been taking calls. This maybe isn't the best occasion to start getting back out there. And she insists on going, and I don't quite know why she does. So during the meal, she realises she can't bear the small talk and the triviality of what her friends are talking about, I get the impression she doesn't really like these people, and they're talking about like what colour they're painting the wall, and she's just there like, what is going on? And you can sort of see her spiraling in that moment. There's a point where she sees they're in this fancy restaurant that one of her friends has got a booking in, and there's like a glass floor and there's like koi swimming around in the glass, and she realizes one of them is dead, and it's kind of like there's this foreboding sense of like, oh, something bad's gonna happen, and something bad does happen. And she gets checked into a psych ward, we'll say that, and that's sort of where the separation between the first half of the book and the second half of the book is. The first half is sort of getting to know her and sort of getting to see where she's at and how she ended up where she is now. And so in this psych ward she has to wear paper clothes, she can't have shoelaces, she has to be strip searched, and all the motions of what people go in when they go into that sort of hospital. And we then sort of follow her experience of the ward and the relationships she makes. When we first are introduced to Bunny, she is talking about this dog, and it's called it's a therapy dog, and it's on the board of activities, and she's just sat there waiting for the dog, and the dog just doesn't appear, and she says, why does it say therapy dog on the wall, and there's no therapy dog? And you can sort of see she's like distressed by this, and I think this happens again, and she's like, take it off the board if there's not a dog. Where is the therapy dog? And to be fair, dogs are therapy. Like, that's probably one of the best things that come into this, like, yes, dogs. And it talks about, she talks about what food they're given and how it's pretty disgusting. They have to eat with plastic knives from plastic jars, and she's not shy in calling people in the ward names that maybe they wouldn't like to be termed, such as psychos. That's the only one I can see right now, but I know she does call them other names as well, and she's aware. She's used psychos again. She's aware she's sort of in with them, and she also calls it an insane asylum, and there are things that she's allowed to take in and things she is not allowed to take in. There are people with all types of distresses. There's a range of people with different distresses, so there's a range of different activities they can go to, which actually sound like a really great different, it sounds quite, actually there's a good amount here: beauty, yoga, watercolouring, arts and crafts, dog therapy, board games, and then a whole range of different therapies, music, and probably the most poignant for Bunny is writing. Obviously she is a writer, in her eyes not a successful writer, and throughout the book we get prompts obviously of what she's written during her time in the hospital, and we get to just sort of figure out why she is where she is, why she's had a lot of pain, and why we get to learn about her trauma and all the things that sort of chipped away at her as she was growing up. There's a bit I just want to praise that was very poignant, and it's her sort of ideal of what she'd like to do on New Year's Day or New Year's Eve, and it's quite intense, so I won't read it out. So it sort of discusses her being in a bath and sort of picturing herself not being there anymore, and then as she's sort of imagining this and sort of fantasizing about it, Jeffrey comes into the room and she says, Bunny sees herself well into leaving the world, or maybe she's already gone, when sweet stupid Jeffrey gets the door open and he basically pulls her out of her ideation. So then Bunny's ideation stops and the idea that Jeffrey will have no idea that she's not there anymore helps her to be like, damn, damn the ideation. Yeah, I want to feel it again. I want to have that, and then you're like, damn, that's a really good point. I can't be, you know, leaving poor Jeffrey, or as I like to term him now, Joffrey. Bunny asks Albie to bring her in notepads and pens so that she can write responses to the prompts she is given by the writing group leader. And as I say, yeah, these are peppered throughout the book and really give you insight into what's led her here. And then we follow her as she chooses to try electroconvulsive therapy, ECT. And she has like a first session. We sort of get an idea of what it entails. And then, like it was never there, the book ends. It literally ends. And you're like, is there another book? It doesn't say it's a trilogy or a duology, you know, it just, you know, what? When I finished it, I was like, I think this is one of the main points on Goodreads, they're like, well, where's the end? What happened to the end? So that's quite a big, not a flaw in my eyes, because anyway, I'll go into that. So the writing style flows nicely. There's no over-the-top description that needs super analysing to understand. It's approachable, but does get straight to the point. And, you know, instead of dancing around what some would deem sensitive topics, whereas a lot of people who deal with them all the time get very desensitized to them, and they're not big things, you know, to read. Some people would find that, oh my goodness, she's being really blunt and out there, whereas others would be like, oh no, like, I joke about that stuff all the time, dark humour. And that might be too intense for some people. And it is morbidly bleak. It's definitely not a unrealistic version of, you know, clinical depression. It's realistic and it's not sugar-coated. So it is morbidly bleak, but it's very realistic. It's a really true account, as if this author or this character is experiencing it. And I think a lot of people who have this distress and these afflictions would be like, you're spot on there, and be like, you know, I relate to that, including myself. And someone did review it on Goodreads as the most, I don't want to say, as the most unhappy book I've ever read. I personally didn't find it unhappy. It is bleak and it is disturbing at points, and it's probably not one you want to read if you don't like books that are blunt about mental health or mental distress. So I wouldn't personally say it's the most unhappy book I've ever read, and I don't know if that's the general consensus. I haven't heard anybody else talking about it. Yeah, I don't know why, because it's like quite a good example of what people go through. So I like the way we get to see inside Bunny's head through all of her writing while she is in the hospital. We get stories from her childhood and her teenage years. We go into the loss of her best friend, and the neglect she suffered from her family, and the loss of her furry child, Angela. We also get to peer into her husband, Albie's experience and how he copes with the distress his partner is in. We get to know that he is having an affair, but it is purely a physical affair with one of his friends. And towards the end of the book, we get to see that Bunny knows about it, and she says to him, like, I understand, you know, I understand why you're doing it. And, you know, she's not sort of mad, or, you know, she sort of acknowledges it. So what comes through? I think for me, the fact that it uses dark humour as a way to cope with such debilitating and distressing events is really poignant. And we see the connections with others that can be made when we are at our most vulnerable. We also see Albie's commitment to his partner, even though she is very unhappy, and he uses his affair as a way to cope with that, but she understands why he did it. But we know that he is always going to be faithful to her. No matter what, he's always going to be there for her. He loves her and he wants to be with her. But it does an excellent job at telling the honest, scary, painful and disturbing reality of mental distress and how it can impact lives for the person experiencing it and for the people around them. Through the vignettes, we really see what over time leads Bunny to where she is, and we can understand why she is where she is. And there's a quote that I really liked, because she isn't the most likable protagonist. She's quite like unfriendly, and she's a bit cold, and she's not exactly a, you know, touchy-feely sort of person. You're not like, oh, I really love this character, she's so, you know. And she says at one point, unlikable people have feelings too. And I think even though she might not be that touchy-feely sort of person, you do begin to really care for her. And I think a lot of people could relate to her and what she's going through. I know I could. So yeah, that's my sort of overview of Rabbits for Food, and it's great. I think it's, yeah, one of my favourite books, and I'm a bit sad that there wasn't another one, because I would have liked to have read another one. There aren't enough books depicting the reality of mental distresses. There's like a few, but yeah, not as many as there needs to be, because so many people experience these things. But oftentimes when you're going through these things, writing a book maybe isn't the real priority. It's a brutal read, but it's worth it in my opinion. But the ending wasn't my favourite. I don't know if I wanted it wrapped up in a little bow, but actually now I'm thinking about it, I quite liked that ending, because it wasn't like, oh, Bunny is now healed. She is now healed and in full recovery. She is doing really well, and she's doing her books again, and she's showering. You know, it's not like that. It's like she's starting therapy. There's no like, and it gets better, you know? There's no promise. And I think that's really important, because all the time we're told you need to recover, you need to be in recovery, when a lot of people live with these things chronically. That's why it's called chronic distress. You know, you live with them, like fibromyalgia. You don't say, oh, you have that one day and then you're in recovery. I'm sure that does happen for some people, which is great. It's a very important book to me, and if you get the chance to pick it up in a second-hand store, not that I've ever seen one in a second-hand shop, I think it's about £3 on Goodreads. To be fair, you might not want to read it now that I've told you everything on it, but it's, you know, there's so much more to it than I can say in a review. And to be honest, I thought this was going to be about 5 minutes, but it's actually turned out to be quite long, so I'm really hope you don't mind that. And if you get a chance to read it, please let me know what you think. I think people can relate to it, and I honestly think it deserved much more recognition and hype. It's crazy how really bland books get so much hype, and the books that are actually like mean a lot to people, they don't get that, which is, you know, not great. But yeah, I definitely think it deserved more than it got. I didn't really ever hear anything about it. I wouldn't have picked it up or looked at it if my I have no idea what to call him. I've forgotten. My sister's partner. If he hadn't have got it for me, you know, I would never have picked it up. I would never have seen it, because I've never seen it. I'm just rambling now. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thanks for listening, and yeah, I'll see you soon. So there you go.